codified more in the Middle Ages. And it's continued to be refined and changed, and even things have been added in the early 20th century. So it's essentially a map depicting the ongoing events and the forces of creation as they're described in Genesis. It's like the Kabbalist attempt at visualizing the forces that we can't see. We can't see creation itself, but we can see the results of the process of creation. So in addition to being a map of creation, the tree is also a place where we begin to see how Kabbalah relates to us on a human level by showing us our place in the universe and our role in the flow of energy that sustains all things and all life within it. So the tree is composed of these 10 vessels. You can see they're represented by circles on the tree. Kabbalah says that creation is not something that happened a long time ago at some point in time, that creation is happening at all times, that creation is happening right now. The principle of continuous creation without beginning and without end is based on the idea that there's a source of life that internally emanates the energy required for all existence. So, the idea that creation occurred in the past leads to this assumption that there's time and distance between the creative act and our present experience today. And it implies a physical distance between our location in space and the creative force. So in this reality that we live in, as long as we surrender to these limiting things of time and space, then we're going to be led to this erroneous belief that there is a separation between ourselves and the source of life, between ourselves and God. So this belief in separateness can lead us to despair. If we think of ourselves as separate, if we don't see ourselves as a part of creation, then we can start to feel isolated. And this can manifest in alienation. I've learned that some of the challenges that I've experienced on my spiritual quest could be related to a sense of feeling different from other people, or being judgmental, or feeling disconnected from the source of life. By exploring these aspects of divine energy, I began to find a way to feel more connected to all life. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you a model. Let's see there. So this is, again, the model of the Tree of Life, but this time this was created by my teacher, Reb Zalman, with the Leonardo da Vinci drawing. I find it easier to understand the Sefirot when they're mapped over a human body, because each of the 10 circles begin to represent aspects of the divine, with the lower 7 Sefirot being aspects that can also be defined as human qualities. So the top 3 Sefirot represent the hidden stages of creation that occurred prior to the first day described in Genesis. So these 3 refer to the Tzimtzum. I don't know, have people heard of the word Tzimtzum? Tzimtzum, it means the Big Bang. It means the emanation when Ein Sof was everything, and Ein Sof filled all worlds and all things, and Ein Sof had to contract to make room for creation. So these top three Sefirot represent that time before creation, as if there was a time. So these are the three hidden Sefirot. The top one, Keter, crown, is the unfathomable divine. That's the divine will in the creation process. Before there was thought, before there was idea, Keter is the portal from the unmanifested to the manifested. We don't have an understanding of it because it's the portal from which we manifest our soul. That's where the Tzimtzum begins, here at Keter, which is translated as crown. Then we have Chokhmah, which in English is translated as wisdom. It's the not yet nurtured seed of an idea. It's like a flash of inspiration. It's creative, it's spiritual, it's transcendent. And the next Sefirah, Bina, which translates as understanding, is the development of ideas. It enables us to make sense out of the pure thought of Chokhmah, to be logical and analytical and organized. So those are the top three Sefirot. When we're counting the Omer, we deal with those Sefirot that can be observed in our physical manifestation, and those are the lower 7, which are in color on this chart. So these are the revealed Sefirot. This contains the flux of energy. It's like a constant flux of energy between the Sefirot, and that determines the defining characteristics of our world at any one time. For instance, if there's an abundance of Gevura, strength energy, and it's not balanced by Chesed energy, then the result could be that the world feels like a harsh place and very constraining and full of conflict and tensions from people fighting restraints that are too tight. So in Kabbalah, we get the world that we create. Nothing occurs in a vacuum. Therefore, our actions today create the world that we're going to receive tomorrow. So let's go over these Sefirot and understand how they interact with each other and how they balance each other. Chesed. Chesed is, you see it on the right arm. Chesed is loving kindness. Chesed is the aspects of God. The aspect of God that Chesed represents is the unmitigated compassion and mercy. On a human level, it represents charity, healing, nurturing, and all the other ways that we give ourselves to the world. This is a divine quality that also exists in us, like all of these qualities. This chesed enables us to be generous and optimistic and sociable. And yet all extremes have a downside. And what's the downside of love without limit or boundaries? It can be obsessiveness or smothering. It's giving where giving isn't needed or wanted. Any of those of us who have been parents and have given birth to our patience teachers in our children know what that's like to realize when we are smothering our children, when we're giving where giving isn't wanted. Or sometimes giving can be a matter of ego. So that's kind of the downside of chesed, of loving kindness. It's the absence of borders. So opposite chesed, we come to the left side and we see gevura, which gets translated as strength or power, discipline, restraint, limitations, boundaries. It's calculated, it's cautious. It's the opposite of chesed. Chesed is all out giving, and gevura represents holding back, boundaries, discipline. It's the rules that guide and teach us and put order into society, and the restraints that keep us from overindulging our passions or giving into our lazy side. The extreme side of Gevurah, when it's unbalanced by Chesed, means that it's overly constricting boundaries and oppression. And it can range from like a fascist police state to an overly disciplinarian parent. It's harsh judgment and the absence of compassion. So then we come to Sefirot, that balancing place between Chesed, loving kindness, and Gevurah, power and strength. Sefirot is in the center here, and it's in green, and it's translated here in this diagram as beauty, but it's not beauty in the physical sense of beauty, but it's representing the quality of harmony and balance, the power to emphasize and to balance kindness on the side of Chesed and strictness on the side of Gevurah, based on what's needed by others and what's needed by us. It's the balance between giving and receiving. It enables us to feel balanced and empathetic and harmonious, and to find that proper balance between compassion and judgment. The next Sefirah, the yellow one here on the right hip, is Netzach. Netzach here is called victory or triumph. It's the power of determination to overcome challenge. It's persistent, it's forceful, it's daring. It's called endurance or eternity. But it can also, the downside is it can refer to domination and confidence, which can be harsh or overwhelming when it's not balanced by vulnerability or giving or nurturing. Netzach is sometimes referred to as the parent, while its counterpart, opposite it on the left hip, is Hod, is compared to the child. Netzach leads those of us who are weaker or innocent. It takes action when action is needed, and it assumes leadership. On the left hip, we have Hod. Hod, which is here translated as splendor. And it refers to vulnerability as well as acceptance. And it's about the power of humility and gratitude and just submitting to a higher cause. And it enables us to be thankful and devoted and accommodating. And it is the opposite of Netzach. Yesod, which is here over the genital area, is translated as foundation. And it's the balance point between Netzach and Hod, Yesod. It's the balance of domination and innocence. And it refers to this dynamic dance between giving and receiving, between dependence and interdependence. It's the power to focus on others and to build genuine, committed relationships. It enables us to be selfless and altruistic. Finally, Malchut, which here is translated as Shekhinah, which is like the feminine presence of God. It's also known as majesty or kingdom, and it refers to the physical manifestation of Ein Sof and creation. So it's Ein Sof and creation coming together. Malchut is like the end result of emanation from Ein Sof. It symbolizes the presence of God in our world, the physical presence. For Kabbalists, we are Shekhinah, and for us, Malchut has several functions. It's the power of speech and action and effective communication. and being receptive to others. It enables us to be part of a system, leading, communicating, and achieving as partners in creation with God. So I'm going to go to, let's see here, oops, another chart. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is a tree of life meditation that on the Sefirot. This is a chart of how it plays out. As you can see, this has 7 weeks marked at the top of the chart. Each week has a theme of one of the Sefirot. The first week is Chesed. The second week is Gevurah. The third week of the Omer last week was Sefirot. And now we are in the 4th week, the week of Netzach, and we are smack dab today in the middle of the counting of the Omer. We are on day 25 in the smack dab middle of counting the Omer. So this gives us this model to count this 49-day period, and then in each week, each day has also a quality of the Sefirot. So I hope nobody here is colorblind, and if you are, please forgive me. I can send you a different chart. But as you can see, on the first day that we count the Omer, which is the second day of Pesach, that quality would be Chesed within Chesed. On the second day, the quality would be Gevurah within Chesed. And on the third day of the Omer, the quality would be Sefirot within Chesed, and so on. So this chart gives us a pathway to see what the intersection of the Sefirot, or the aspects of the divine, we are meditating on during this time. So what we can do is we can use this for whatever new knowledge we might be preparing ourselves to receive, whatever inspiration or whatever revelation we might want. We can use this model to go deeper into a kind of self-examination or desire for connecting your physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual lives together. So together, each week corresponds to the Sefirot, and each day has this different pair of qualities. And so we can use this to kind of walk through this period with kavanah. Like, we often think about things in binary terms, such as dark and light and good and bad and he and she. But during this 49-day period, we think of this multifaceted picture, the multifaceted faces of God or divine qualities in this unfathomable kaleidoscope. We think about the many characteristics that we want to emulate here and how we might do that. There's 2 characteristics for each day, and every week, 2 of those are on the same day. So, like, for instance, today, we are Netzach Sheba Netzach. We are Netzach within Netzach. And so every week, we have this opportunity to contemplate these 49 facets of God that allow us to look at all these intersectional qualities. For instance, week 1, Chesed. That's the first week. And that we think about what inspires our generosity, what causes us to close down, and what causes us to turn away. And we wonder at our capacity to give love or receive love. We turn towards this practice of responding to ourselves and others with compassion and kindness. Week 2, Gevurah, strength, judgment, discernment. So it's like we think about, what are we in awe of? How are we serving with strength? How are we being guided by humility when we get to that place? Week 3, Sefirot, radiance, balance, harmony, truth. This light is really strong, and we can notice this in our being. We can notice the waves of emotion that move through us. And I know I've felt a lot of emotion lately. Sefirot shows us that beauty and brokenness in the world go hand in hand. And it says, this is what is. Let's open up to the fact that there is beauty and there is brokenness, and this all is. Netzach, week 4, the week that we're in now. Eternity, endurance, vision. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a moment because we're going to do a little practice on Netzach. But it just, eternity, like I think about eternity as each moment in connection to all that was, all that is, and all that will be. So this week calls us to feel ourselves capable of transformation and to believe that everything we do matters, that in our actions today, we are affecting generations to come. So this week invites us to envision the person that you long to be. Envision the world that you want to live in and walk towards those visions in strength. Week 5, next week, will be the week of Hod, of presence, of gratitude, of humility. And that's about being present and giving thanks and opening to the glory of each moment, whatever that moment brings. And then Yesod, the week of Yesod, foundation, bonding, nurturing, connection. It calls us to feel grounded in the mystery and to feel that mystery rising up inside of us. It calls us to encounter the fire and the sacred sparks that are at the core of creation that connect us to that. Finally, Malchut, that's the final week, which here is translated as nobility or leadership. This is the channel of the divine presence, the flow of the Most High indwelling presence through us. I think of this as one that's about channeling God's work in the world. And this final week is also a time for integration, and we're called to open our hearts and wonder about the gifts that we can bring into the world. And so when we go through the counting of the Omer, we often ask ourselves, how can I be of service? So how can we use this as part of our spiritual practice? So let's look at where we are now. On this day, today, on the 10th of ER, we're right in the middle of the Omer, as I said. And on this past Shabbat, we reached exactly, precisely the middle of the Torah. So we, at Parshat Kedoshim, which is in the very middle of the Torah, it says the words, Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani. You shall be holy, for God is holy, for I am holy. I, your God, am holy. And I've been thinking about how holiness can come through me right now in this middle place. So here we are in the week of Netzach, this week of eternity and vision and endurance. And so I'm going to think about, as this week began, my propensity for persistence and endurance. Netzach is known as our drive for victory, and it also encompasses our ambition and our ability to persevere. It's like our 40 years of marching in the desert towards the promised land. And eternity in the present moment. Think about, this blows my mind. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. What does this mean? Eternity in the present moment. We're living in a time that's affected by those who came before us, and we're creating a world for those who will call us ancestors. So in this week of Netzach, We're being pushed beyond what we can comprehend. And we're being pushed to achieve beyond what we thought possible. I'll give you an example. Last Friday, every Friday of this year's Omer will fall on the day of Chesed, in whichever quality the week is. So each Friday, we're falling on the day of Chesed. Last Friday was Chesed Shebe Netzach, the 22nd day of the Omer, loving kindness within endurance. So on Friday, before Shabbat, I was thinking, does my Netzachness contain some Chesed? Does that drive, that ambition, contain some love? Do I allow my persistence to be influenced by my desire for expansiveness? Is my drive to endure and to win tempered by love? Do I allow love to interfere with my ambition? Am I still able to give and to be open to change while I'm persevering? Is my fortitude accompanied by loving kindness? So those are some of my meditations before Shabbat on the 22nd day of Chesed, loving kindness within Netzach, within endurance and eternity. So today is the 25th day of the Omer, when we sort of get a double dose of Netzach, Netzach Shebe Netzach. Netzach says that everything we do matters. Our choices are creating this world for those who are coming after us. It's also, as you may recall from the Sefirot, about the lower part of the body, the legs, the hips, the lower torso. So I'm thinking, Netzach is in my right hip. What do I stand for? What am I going to put my energy towards? If only it was so easy to make a decision. But that decision-making requires compassionate vigilance. You really have to pay attention to what's in your mind because, as we all know, particularly any of those of us who've tried to meditate, that our mind can take us all over the place, that our mind can really just take us on all sorts of journeys if we don't manage our mind. It tends to wander off. So notice when doubt arises. Doubt is not helpful in the world of Netzach. Without compassionate vigilance, doubt is easy to believe when it grabs a hold of us. We have to be vigilant when we notice doubt arriving and we say, not now. How often do we give our energy away to distractions? Really? I don't know about you. I do it a lot. It's been strengthened by habit, particularly now when we're not leaving our houses. Those distractions are there for us all the time. How often do we give our energy away? In Netzach, our energy is intended for other things, for worthier tasks. It's important not to let doubt paralyze us. Netzach reminds us that our actions are holy. It's so important to send messages out there to those who need it right now, messages of love, messages of care, acts of kindness. I try to call somebody every day just to reach out. And I'm grateful for those people who reach out to me. When we don't reach out, when we allow ourselves to be distracted, let's forgive ourselves and then just continue forward. That's what Netzach teaches us. Netzach says, go forward, step into that sea, and we move forward, and doubt loses. It loses its power. What am I creating in this world for now and for those who come after? That's the call of Netzach, to walk through that sea with courage, even if we don't see the results, even if we're not going to see the results. What we leave in our wake can be helpful to those who come after us. Netzach is made of the letters Nun, Tzadik, and Chet. So in that, Nun is to push forward, and the Tzadik is like justice. And Chet stands for Chesed. So in Netzach, we stand for justice and love and compassion. And we create this vision for those who come after us. So let's be compassionately vigilant about what we say and how we serve. From this foundation, this place that we're standing here, how do we make this time that we're in right now, how do we create meaning in this time that we're in? Think about what it means to endure within endurance. That's another meaning of Netzach, endurance. And perhaps think about what it is, what we're creating here, what's enduring as we endure right now. So it's kind of like examining the endurance aspect of endurance, its expression and intensity. Everybody has willpower and determination, and we all have the capacity to endure much more than we can imagine, and to prevail under the most trying of circumstances. I was online with a friend on the East Coast last week, and we were counting the Omer and Netzach, and he said, yeah, you guys in Houston, you know about endurance. I think about the people in New York right now, what they must know about endurance. Yeah. So ask yourself for a moment, where am I? Is my behavior erratic? Am I unreliable? Inconsistent? Since I have will and determination, why do I feel so scattered? Am I afraid of accessing my endurance and making a commitment? Am I giving in to doubt? Do I fear that I'm going to be trapped by making a commitment? Why? They're all things to think about. What image comes to you when you think about endurance, when you think about eternity? So one practice of the many that are offered is to commit yourself today to developing one new good habit. We can all identify our bad habits. But what's one new good habit that you can start on today in this Netzach Sheva Netzach? So we count the Omer traditionally at night. It's you're supposed to count the Omer when the sun goes down and you can see a star in the sky. So we won't be saying a blessing for counting the Omer, but we can acknowledge the day, just as all other Jewish days start at sunset the night before. And so when we count, we say the traditional blessing formula. I think we've probably all counted in this group. We say Al Sefirot HaOmer for the counting of the Omer, and then we count the total number of days. And then you count the weeks and the days, because it says in Parshat Emor that we saw at the beginning of this session that you should count both the weeks and the days. And some people use an app to help them. Actually, I'm going to show you the app that I sometimes use. And actually, I've asked dear Maya in her holy service to post in the chat box a link to some of the apps that are available. If you would like to go to that link or copy that link, it's a Google Drive doc that has a lot of links in it. There, thank you, Maya. And I'm going to just show you a picture, just a minute. Try share screen. Let's go back to, this is a picture of the app that I use, and these links are all in the Google Doc that I shared in the chat. This is actually put out by David Seidenberg on Neo Chassid. It's a free app that I have on my phone, and it gives you an opportunity to bless each day, and to count each day gives the quality of each day. And then it also has some quotes, which actually are not, they change every year. Sometimes they change every week. He's always going in and changing it. But it's a wonderful resource if you just want to have a handy thing on your phone to remind you what day it is, and you can pull it up whenever it's convenient for you to count. So with this, I want to stop and give about a few minutes for questions. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. Do we have any questions or comments? Do I see a hand there? Ah, Leslie, did you have a question?
I have a comment, if I may. Our time together today really helped in reminding me of many blessings, and my experience over the last year was a great reminder of many blessings. And now, when I go out for a walk, there are so many things that I see that hopefully I didn't miss seeing before, but now I'm seeing them even more gloriously. So what we're talking about, I may not be counting the Omer traditionally, but every day is something special. And I think also the situation that we all find ourselves in, and we can't be in the company of family and friends like we would prefer, to appreciate a phone call, a card, a Zoom session, a family Zoom session from different cities all at the same time. Very special. And it's good to spend time thinking about those things.
Leslie, thank you so much for reminding us of how meaningful this time could be, not only the counting of the Omer, but just this predicament we all find ourselves in right now in this time of pandemic, is that it's not an in-between time. It's a time that we can make a lot of meaning out of. And thank you for reminding us of that. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I had a question not to do with the Omer. I texted it on the screen there. I've been doing the morning blessings, which I never did before this whole pandemic situation. And I don't know whether you're supposed to do them before you get out of bed, or do you get out of bed and wash your face and then do them later? How do you do that?
Well, usually the minute I am aware that I'm awake, I say Moda Ani. I thank God for allowing me to wake up again. So I say that one while I'm still in bed. And then I usually get up and wash, and I say my morning blessings after I usually say my morning blessings on the yoga mat, or sometimes I join the Bris Shalom morning minyan and say the morning blessings with the morning minyan with Rabbi Teller, which is available online every morning. So I think, just a series, it's another wonderful spiritual practice. The Pesukei de Zimra service, the morning service, it's wonderful spiritual practice. And what better time to add this practice or this good habit to our repertoire of good habits than to now when we have the opportunity of time and the spaciousness of time. So speaking of time, I see that we're coming up on the end here. And so if you have any other questions, please email me at janice@rubin.net. I'd like to give a blessing to everyone who showed up today. Thank you so much. I want to thank again Rabbi Teller and Brish Shalom for allowing me to teach today. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Just everybody settle in for a moment. And we'll end with the formula for making a blessing. L'shem yichud kuche brichu shchintei hineni muchan umezuman לקיים מצוות תעשה של ספירת העומר, של ספירת העומר. ידה 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה. In the coming week and even in the coming months, may we all be able to persist and endure in our social isolation and distancing and still maintain our connection to chesed, our expansiveness, gevura, our strength and discernment, to ferret, our ability to keep things in balance, netzach, our ability to respond with energy and determination, hod, opening to what each moment brings, yesod, maintaining connection to that sacred spark inside of us, and malchut, making ourselves into channels for divine presence through our actions. And may we be embraced with love as we walk together with compassionate vigilance and heal the world beyond our wildest dreams. And let us all say together,
Amen.
Amen ve'amen.
That was lovely, Janice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.